Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is me, Emily, and of course we have a very special guest today that will be joining us. It's Martin. You have to show that you're happy, that you're not. Okay, today guys, we will be answering some of the questions that I get from the viewers dito sa YouTube channel ko, and those questions they're about Swedish people or living in Sweden and stuff like that. So syempre, if it's about Sweden, we should have a real Viking, a real Swedish guy, a real Swedish person who will be joining us in answering some of those questions. And disclaimer lang guys, all of our answers are just based on what we experience here in Sweden. And kung may mga experiences kayo na iba, of course you can also leave the comment or leave a comment down below about sa mga experiences niyo. But for us, yung mga i-share namin, yun lang yung mga na-experience namin dito sa Sweden. Right, Oscleen? So, yeah. Without further ado, let's start on the video. First and foremost, maraming nagtatanong about cost of living here in Sweden. And, yeah, we will be answering that one. So, for us, we live here in northern part of Sweden. So, iba, we have a difference between the cost of living here in north and sa south. So, in northern Sweden, when it comes to an apartment, which is more costly, my love? North or south?
Depends where in south.
Okay, let's just say in general, like which is more costly, living in southern Sweden or here in the north? Because it really matters where, no? Like for example, if in north, if you live in Åre, that will be really costly compared to where we are living right now.
Yes.
And in South Sweden as well, if you live in Stockholm, that is really costly.
Yes.
But is there a part in South Sweden which isn't really that costly?
Yeah, I mean you can find houses for quite cheap price in South Sweden.
Like Tierp?
No,
Tierp
Tierp is
is
quite
costly.
expensive. Usually houses and apartments closer to the bigger cities are more costly in general. But you can go to the smaller villages or smaller areas, then you can for sure find a really cheap
Because
house.
if you will compare, like for example here in Järpen, for example the basic, let's just say the cheapest apartment you can get, I mean a decent one, like around 4,000 SEK, kanske? Just a small one, a decent one. Here in Järpen.
But now you're talking about renting.
Yeah, renting an apartment.
Järpen is quite expensive because of the Norwegians and also because of Åre, which has a high tourist standard.
Yeah, yung Åre guys, that is a place where people usually go for ski.
Yes.
So it's like a tourist spot.
Yes, so all villages around Duved, Undersåker, Järpen, Mörsil, all of us villages around Åre usually goes higher in price.
So maybe that's why.
But we're paying for this apartment, which we purchased though, so it's a bit different. We pay 5,000 SEK.
They also wanted to know when it comes to food, my love, if it's a bit pricey or what.
I mean, local produced foods, which we Swedish people usually want the most, like meats and milk and such. We usually want to purchase food which comes from places we know. Those usually have a higher price.
Because they're really scared to get food from other countries.
Not really. It's just that we want to support our local farmers and such. That's why we.
And the meat here, guys, super tasty. Really tasty.
That's
very fresh and super duper tasty. But when it comes to seafoods, fish, clams, shrimps, nah, Philippines is the best. I'm sorry to say. We have the best shrimp.
But that's not fair as well, because if you would be in South Sweden, which has more local incomes to fish and shrimps and such, like Gothenburg for example, then you cannot say that.
Okay, here, this is one of the most important question as well. Is it necessary to learn the language?
Yes.
Yes, as
It
well.
is.
Coming from an immigrant myself. If you're planning to just visit Sweden, like let's say for example, you just wanted to go for like a trip, like let's say 3 months or weeks or whatsoever, then you don't really have to learn the language because Swedish people are really good in English as well. They can understand, they can like speak the language. But if you're planning to live here, to start a life here, then you should really learn the language, because if you don't, it will be very hard to find a job. It will be very hard to communicate as well, because Swedish people, they really love their language. Unlike us Filipinos, I mean, we can speak English like the whole day if we wanted to, but Swedish people, they would rather speak their language rather than adjusting for anyone at work and speaking English. So if you really wanted to start a life here, if you really wanted to work here, you better understand and learn the language yourself as well, because then it will be a bit hard, right?
Yes.
Like for you, Elsning, if let's say for example you're working with one of the co-workers, and that co-worker would really like let's say speak English, how do you feel?
That person is not allowed to work where I'm working.
No, let's just say like that. Like he was working, or he's working in that place, and he's really insisting of like speaking English. Are you going to speak English as well?
No. And then I will tell the boss that this person can't speak in Swedish, which means that he cannot work at where I'm working. So.
Kasi kahit dito guys, like for example for me, I started working when I was 20, when it was 2018 I think. The first job I got was in a hotel. I think, so yung Swedish ko, hindi pa ganun talaga kagaling. But, if you're really not that good in Swedish yet, and you really wanted to work, then you will get very limited job lang. Like, for example, cleaning. You don't have really that much of an option. So, you're like good in cleaning lang. Kasi at least in cleaning, maglilinis lang naman kayo. But then, they would still speak in Swedish kasi they will give instructions in Swedish. So, if I were you, if you're really going to live here in Sweden, I would recommend that you go to school first, learn the language first. But you know what, honestly, I can really speak Swedish, but when you're around, I cannot.
I know.
I feel awkward because, look, I won't get jobs, my love, by my own with the interview if I can't speak Swedish. But when you're around, I cannot speak the language.
I'm the one who usually push you to get the job
but
for the
I
job.
do the interviews.
I'm trying.
But I do the interviews.
Oh, hell no.
No, but seriously, I mean, if I were you, this is my advice to all of those Filipinos or foreigners na pupunta dito sa Sweden. If you really wanted to start a life in Sweden, might as well learn the language. Don't prioritize the work. Work follows once you learn the language already. Learn the language, learn it by heart. And then once you learn the language, you can apply for any jobs that you want to. As long as you can really understand, you can really speak. Mas gusto nila yan. Mas pinaprioritize nila. Kesa sa mga taong hindi pa talaga marunong mag-Swedish. Okay, next is looking for a job in Sweden. They really think, my love, it's very easy to look for a job in Sweden. But in our case, it isn't. Hindi talaga. They always think that looking for a job here in Sweden is very easy. So they're asking if it's really easy to look for a job here in Sweden.
I would say that most Filipinos who comes here to Sweden usually lives in the bigger cities, which is of course easier to find a work in, like simpler jobs like cleaning or something like that. Obviously, up here in North Sweden though, it's a bit harder because we're not required to have that many jobs and such. So
limited.
Yeah, and here they put way more. You will have to put way more effort. So up here, north, harder to get that job, I would say.
Yeah, true. And it's not a lot of places din kasi like establishments which is here in north. Unless if you're really living in a city like let's say Östersund, then probably you'll get a lot more opportunities there. But here where I live, it's very limited. So the first job I had here was cleaning, and that was in a hotel in Åre. And then after that, they have to close kasi they have to renovate the place. So I tried my luck in applying with Bemanningsenheten. Diyan ako nag-apply, guys. Before natapos yung hotel na work ko, I already applied in Bemanning. And then luckily, they hired me. So since 2018 or no 2019 was it, member or worker na ako ng Bimaning Singheten. But they will only accommodate you, they will only give you interviews if you can speak already Swedish. So yan yung sinasabi ko, you really have to learn the language. So looking for a job here in Sweden, I can't really say that it's super hard or it's super impossible. It really depends on where you live. So if you live in South, looking for a job is very easy because then you have a lot of options. You can work in a hotel, you can work in a store, you can work in a school or whatsoever. But if you're living in southern, northern part or yung mga smaller villages or smaller towns, it's a bit hard to look for work. Okay, next is transportation, Daddy. They're asking if transportation here is very expensive or what are the modes of transportation here in Sweden? Because in Philippines, we have a lot. We have tricycle, jeepney, sa pa ba? Daghan.
Well, in North, we rely a lot on our cars because we don't really have any. There's not that many buses or trains and such, so car is what we need to be using.
And taxi here in North costs a lot.
Taxi is extremely expensive,
Yes.
even in South
Gold.
actually. But it's really good quality though, but it's really costly.
But in South, Mala, what's nice there is that they have Uber, which is really cheap if you will compare to a taxi.
Sure,
Right?
yeah, of course. But of course, in South you have more trains, you have more buses, you have more
City bus.
Yeah, you have more or less everything. So you can buy like a year card for like just a couple of thousand.
That's why here, guys, if you will compare it with Philippines, for us, our license isn't really like, I mean, our passport is way more important than our license. But here in Sweden, their license is like way more important than their personbevis, than their passport. I mean, their license is like something, how we feel like when we graduate in school. Ganyan yung license sa kanila dito. If they have gotten their license already, they will always celebrate, right? I mean, in Philippines, if you get your license, it's like, oh, okay, I got my license, I'm good for you. But here, if you will get your license, it's a really huge celebration for Swedish people because getting a license here costs really, really much. And it takes a long time. Because it depends if you will pass the exam or not. They really take it seriously. That's why you can observe that the drivers here, they are really well educated when it comes to like how the rules on the roads, you know, applies. Because they really take it seriously in taking the driver's license. So dito, mas importante yung driver's license nila kesa sa passport nila. How much does it cost getting a driver's license?
Super hard to say. Everything between 8,000 up to 20,000.
Yeah, ganyan kamahal, guys. So 8,000, how much is it? 8,000 sec. 40,000? Mga nasa 40,000 hanggang almost 100 sa peso sa pera natin. So ganyan kamahal yung driver's license nila dito. So, kaya, yeah. And next is, this one, my love, is just from one person. How far is Lund? Where is Lund? Yeah, where is Lund? Because I really don't know where is Lund. Is it in South?
It's in South. I'm not even sure where it is.
Kasi, guys, yung Stockholm,
Far.
it's like 8 hours. 8 hours, right, my love? Because Tierp is like 5.
6 hours to Stockholm from here.
Nay?
Yes, 6 hours and 35 minutes.
Yeah, basta malayo siya, guys. Malayo talaga kami sa South Sweden. But I really like my place. I really like North. I really love Järpen where I live because it's very peaceful, it's very quiet, and hindi siya scary. It's not a scary place to live.
Where?
Here, in Järpen, where we live. I mean, you're not scared na dito lumaki yung anak mo compared sa city talaga. Kasi then in cities, it's a bit crowded. More crimes, if I should say. Not in Stockholm, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah. One more. Let's just have 2 more, but this other one is very important.
Okay.
About racism. Have I experienced racism, or are there a lot of racists in Sweden? I'll tell my I tell my opinion first, or my experience. So far, I haven't experienced any racism here in Sweden, and I mean, they're very welcoming. Swedish people are very welcoming. But there is also another side of Swedish people na, yes, they're very welcoming, but at the same time, there are other Swedish people who's a bit like, oops, you should know your limitations. Like that. You get me. Like, I mean, you can be, Swedish people in general, they love to party, they love to meet people. They are very sociable. So how should I say it? Social? They're very social people. Pero they also have their boundaries, especially if they don't really know the person so much. But for me, I haven't experienced being thrown away or shouted at or like parang mga racist rants, wala pa naman so far. Dito sa North, wala pa ako na-experience. Right? But for you live here. You know Swedish people more than I do. Do you think they're like, what? It's racist? Are you a racist?
Not a racist.
You can't be. You can't be.
I love all people. No, but yes, I would say that people with an Asian background for sure has the smallest chance to have racial slurs and such in person, because Asian people usually have been around here quite long in Sweden. We are quite used to it. It doesn't really matter. So is people from Africa as well, actually, like Ethiopia.
They're very funny as well.
I know a lot of those. One of
very
my best
nice
friends,
to work
actually.
with.
So I will not say that Swedish people are racist in that sense. Of course, the older generation have their older values and such stuff.
They're more on, we just want Swedish people.
Yeah,
to be
like
in Sweden.
with all. But I would.
But the young ones, they're more like modernized people.
Yeah.
They welcome different race.
But then of course we have the thing with religion and culture and such stuff. And Swedish people, we're very boxed in how our culture and religion is.
Yes.
Even if our culture and religion, or mostly culture, is very open and it's very hard to understand, because we are like that.
But when it comes to religion, Sweden, what's nice with Sweden is that they don't want people to show off kind of their religion. I mean, you can still pray if you want to, blah blah blah, but you should not like be out in public. You get me? Because they don't want other people to be mocking other religions, or other people to be mocking Swedish people's religion. So for them, it's better to just keep it in private, keep it at your home if you can do it, but not outside, right? So yep. And one last is, how is it working with Swedish people? For me, for you. I mean, you're Swedish yourself, but for me, working with Swedish people, you just really have to make sure that you're never late. They're very, very, how should I say, my love? When it comes to time, you have to be there earlier or exact. Though I have been late a couple of times. You did as well. But when it comes to working here in Sweden and working with Swedish people, you really have to keep it in mind that time matters for them. You can't be Filipino time, like how we are Filipinos, so you cannot apply that here in Sweden. So you really have to be mindful of the time, the schedule, and then when it comes to like going home, unlike in Philippines, if you have done your work earlier, maybe you can come home, go home quite early. Pero dito, you really have to stick with the time. Like if you quit 4:30, you really have to quit 4:30 or even later than that. But they're very, very strict with the time, and you really have to know what your job is. Because here, guys, sa kanila, they're very how do you say it, my love? That you really have to know what your responsibilities are as a worker, because you can't rely on the other workers to do your work. They get pissed. They get pissed easily.
Yeah.
Right? I have a question for you though. This is a personal question, and I wanted to ask Martin because I wanted to ask Martin this personal question because I wanted those other Filipinas or Filipinos who are planning to live here in Sweden with their Swedish partner, kung ano yung kailangan nilang malaman or kailangan nilang i-look forward. So, how is it living with a person who's from a different country, who lives with a different culture, a different tradition and stuff? How does it feel for you? Is it hard? Is it hard to adjust? So you have to answer if it's hard to adjust living with a person who came from a different country, with a different culture, a different,
I
way
mean,
of living.
you say that, but at the same time, you're a person who don't really care about culture or religion or anything. So, I mean, hard to say from my point of view. In this, I mean, it's like, dude,
There's no difference, no?
the only thing that us Swedish people are very engaged in, it is that when we live together with someone, we expect you to share the work. Like you have a kid, for example, you're supposed to do both. Both of you are supposed to clean, both of you are supposed to cook food, both of you are supposed to go shopping.
Yes.
If you have to rely on each other, and we Swedish people get easily irritated if it's a person who are lazy and do not follow those
and I
rules.
think that's what I love about Swedish people, or you, especially Martin, guys. I always tell my family, I'm very, very, very lucky that I am together with Martin. Kasi Martin is very responsible. Like for example, Martin, like specifically Martin, kasi I'm together with him, so I can only say it from my point of view and his mother's point of view as well. Because like Swedish guy, or Martin to be specific, he's very responsible. I mean, kasi tayo mga Pinoy, we're used to like that thing na kung ikaw yung babae, ikaw yung gagawa mostly ng mga gawaing bahay. But here in Sweden, I cook, he cooks as well. I take care of Amelia, he can do the same thing. He can even clean the house without me asking. Like, he really does a lot of things, or things that a girl or a wife can do. The guys here in Sweden can do it as well. I mean, they don't really do that thing like, you're a girl so you have to do this and I'll do the work, or like, you know, like to earn a living. Dito guys, it's very equal. Like whatever the guys can do, the girls can as well. The guys can work, the girls can work as well. The girls can do the household, the guys can do it as well. Like wala silang, there's no like boundaries kung ano lang yung nagagawa ng guys and ng girls, right? Like for me, I'm super duper lucky that Martin can do all the household chores here at home, and he can even cook, he can even take care of Amelia, he can even take care of me, he cooks for me if wala ako sa mood na mag-cook, siya yung nagluluto ng pagkain. He can even cook rice, which is really good, not like the one in the, you know,
we have a rice cooker, it cooks itself.
Yes, he knows how to cook rice, and he's really good at it already. So, yun lang. Like, for example, if you're living with a Swedish person, or if you're planning to live with a Swedish guy or a Swedish person, just always keep in mind na it's not just about taking everything. You also have to give. So, it's about give and take. And you also have to be aware if that person is very tired from work, then don't give him any more things to do when he comes home. Just let him rest rest maybe, and then you can do the other work. Just like give and take. Ganun lang siguro.
And side thing though, good to know about Swedish people as well is that we take our jobs very serious.
Yes.
We will work over, and we will work, and if our boss calls us to work, we will work.
Especially this guy. Very workaholic. Like for example, he's supposed to be free in the morning because he's about to work, let's say 3 to 9:30 at night. And then tatawagan siya ng boss niya that he needed to work in the morning. Then I'll just wake up in bed. Martin's not there because he already went to work kasi he got a call. So he never say no. This guy doesn't say no to his boss. He always take work. And hindi talaga nag-a-absent, guys. Kahit na may sakit, hindi siya nag-a-absent talaga. So, yeah, very lucky, no? So, that's it for our video. I hope na-answer namin lahat ng mga questions ninyo. And kung may mga questions pa kayo, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below because we will probably be doing the same thing like in the future. We'll answer more of your questions. So, yeah, for now, that's it muna. But if you needed more things to learn about Sweden, then just comment comment down below. So that's it guys for this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!